As we grow older, we realize that life is less about chasing big dreams and more about protecting the peace we've worked so hard to build. Family can be a wonderful source of love, laughter, and support. Yet not every relative brings positivity into our lives. Some relationships, even within family, can quietly drain our energy and disrupt our happiness. Have you ever wondered why you feel exhausted after spending time with certain family members? What if I told you that keeping a healthy distance from a few specific types of relatives could help you reclaim your peace and joy? Today we're exploring 5 types of relatives you may need to protect yourself from. And trust me, the last one is something many people never expect. It might even surprise you. So stay tuned and let's dive into it. Let's dive into the first type of relative to watch out for: the constant complainer. We all have that one relative. Nothing is ever good enough for them. The weather is either too hot or too cold. The family dinner didn't meet their standards. They find flaws in everything: conversations, food, even your life decisions. At first, you might feel sorry for them, thinking they just need a listening ear. But after a while, their negativity starts to weigh on you like an emotional anchor. Their complaints aren't just harmless venting, they're draining. Constant exposure to that kind of negativity affects your mood, sapping your joy and energy. You find yourself feeling tired and irritable after each encounter, even if your day started out fine. It's like standing under a dark cloud that follows you home. Here's a story. Joan, a retired nurse, loved her Sunday lunches with her younger sister Carol, until Carol's visits became a steady stream of complaints. Week after week, Carol would unload her frustrations about everything: her job, her neighbors, even the way Joan organized her house. Joan started dreading Sundays, feeling tense and emotionally exhausted. One day, Joan realized something important. I've worked too hard for my peace. It's okay to choose happiness over constant negativity. She didn't cut Carol out completely, but she learned to gently redirect conversations or keep their visits short. And it worked. Joan felt lighter, more in control of her time and emotions. Now here's the truth. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish, it makes you wise. If the conversation turns negative, you can say something like, "I'm focusing on the positives lately. What's something good that happened to you recently?" If that doesn't work, it's okay to step back and limit how often you see them. Your peace matters and it's worth protecting. The second type, the disguised critic. This one's sneakier. They wrap their criticism in the disguise of helpful advice, or, "I'm just being honest because I care." Have you heard phrases like, "I'm only saying this for your own good," right before they point out something you didn't even ask for feedback on? At first you might brush it off, but over time, their words start to chip away at your confidence, making you second-guess your choices, even the ones you know were right. Let me tell you a story about Paul and his cousin, but we'll get to that in just a bit. Let's move on to Paul's story and the second type, the disguised critic. Paul had always been close to his cousin Rick. They grew up together, shared family holidays, and always kept in touch. But something changed. After Paul retired, Rick's comments, once playful, started cutting deeper. "You're lucky to retire early. Must be nice not to have any responsibilities," Rick would say, with a smirk that made Paul uncomfortable. Then came the subtle digs. "You've put on some weight, huh? Retirement life must be treating you well." Or, "I wouldn't have spent my savings that way, but you've always been a risk taker." At first, Paul laughed it off. But as time went on, those comments made him question his decisions. He began second-guessing himself, wondering if Rick was right. It wasn't until Paul spoke with his wife that he realized the truth. Rick's advice wasn't about helping. It was about control and insecurity. Sound familiar? Sometimes the people who criticize us most harshly are the ones struggling with their own self-doubt. Their words aren't about you at all. The key is recognizing the pattern and setting boundaries, just like Paul did. The next time Rick made a snide comment, Paul calmly said, "Thanks for the advice, but I'm really happy with how things are going." When Rick tried again, Paul simply walked away. It wasn't easy at first, but with time, Paul felt stronger. He realized that protecting his peace wasn't rejecting his cousin, it was honoring his own well-being. Now let's talk about the third type, the family moocher, the relative who only shows up when they need something. These relatives have a radar for your generosity. When they're in trouble, financially, emotionally, or otherwise, you're the first person they call. But when things are going well, they're nowhere to be found. Take Ellen, for example. After her husband passed away, she worked hard to rebuild her life. Her nephew Mark hadn't spoken to her in years, until he needed help with rent. Ellen was happy to help at first, but then it became a pattern. Every few months, Mark had a new crisis and a new reason to ask for money. Ellen started feeling used, questioning whether Mark cared about her or just what she could give. She felt torn. Was she being selfish for wanting to say no? The answer is no. Helping is a beautiful thing when it's mutual and respectful. But when it becomes one-sided, it's okay to draw the line. Ellen finally told Mark, "I love you, but I'm focusing on my own needs now." It was tough, but it set her free from the endless cycle of guilt and obligation. If you've ever faced this, you're not alone. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you stop loving someone. It means you're protecting your heart and resources for what matters most. And this brings us to the fourth type, the jealous relative, someone who can't celebrate your happiness because it reminds them of what they feel is missing in their own life. Jealousy is one of the hardest emotions to confront in family relationships. It often appears in small, painful ways: backhanded compliments, passive-aggressive remarks, or an unwillingness to celebrate your success. Picture this. Sarah finally bought her dream retirement home after years of saving. At her housewarming party, her cousin Lisa commented, "It's nice. I guess I'd have one too if I didn't have all these bills." The comment stung, but Sarah brushed it off. Yet Lisa's remarks kept coming, always subtle but always dismissive of Sarah's happiness. The truth? Jealousy isn't about you, it's about what the other person feels they lack. But their inability to share your joy shouldn't rob you of it. We'll dive deeper into how to handle this type next. And after that, we'll talk about the final type of relative, the one that will really surprise you. Now let's talk about the fourth type, the jealous relative. Jealousy is one of the most complicated emotions, especially when it appears within family relationships, where love and support are supposed to be the foundation. This type of relative might seem supportive on the surface, but underneath, their envy quietly brews. It usually starts with small comments: "Oh, that's nice for you," not "Everyone's that lucky," or "Well, I guess things always work out for some people." At first, these remarks might feel harmless, but over time they can wear you down, casting a shadow over your joy and making you feel guilty for your own success. Take Sarah's story, for example. She had worked hard for years to buy her dream retirement home, a cozy, peaceful place by the lake. At her housewarming party, her cousin Lisa made what seemed like a harmless comment: "Well, it's beautiful, but I'd have a home like this too if I didn't have so many responsibilities." Sarah laughed it off at the time, but it didn't stop there. Every time they met, Lisa found a way to remind her that she had it too easy. It became clear that Lisa couldn't celebrate Sarah's happiness because it only reminded her of her own perceived shortcomings. And isn't that the hardest part? Realizing that someone you love can't share in your joy? Now here's where it gets tricky. Jealous relatives often don't see themselves as envious. In their minds, they're just keeping it real or being honest. But their words have a way of diminishing your achievements and sowing doubt. Here's a question for you. Have you ever stopped yourself from sharing good news with certain people because you knew it would spark jealousy or criticism? You're not alone. Sarah did the same thing. She started hiding parts of her life to avoid those uncomfortable moments with Lisa. At first, it seemed like a smart way to keep the peace, but deep down it didn't feel right. She had worked hard for her happiness. Why should she shrink herself to make someone else feel more comfortable? And this brings us to the real dilemma. Should you confront them or let it go? Experts often advise a middle ground, setting boundaries without confrontation. In Sarah's case, she decided to limit how much she shared with Lisa. Instead of talking about her travels and home renovations, she kept their conversations light and neutral. But what if you feel it's too late to salvage the relationship? This is where things get controversial. Some people believe it's best to cut ties with toxic family members completely. Others think that no matter how bad it gets, family is family, and you should try to repair the relationship. What's your take? Either way, one thing is clear. protecting your peace is always the right decision. You can love someone and still keep your distance. You can wish them well while also choosing to surround yourself with people who genuinely celebrate your happiness. Because here's the truth, jealousy is never about you, it's about what the other person feels they lack. You aren't responsible for fixing that. In Sarah's case, setting those boundaries gave her the freedom to fully enjoy her new life. She still sees Lisa at family gatherings, but the tension has eased because she no longer seeks Lisa's validation. Sarah took back her power and her peace. We've talked about constant complainers, critics, moochers, and jealous relatives, but the fifth type is the one that shocks most people. It's something most families won't openly discuss, but it happens more often than you'd think. What would you do if you discovered that a close family member had secret feelings for your spouse? Yes, it sounds like a movie plot, but trust me, this situation is more common than you realize. Now we've reached the fifth type, the one that surprises most people and creates the most tension, the relative secretly in love with your spouse. Yes, you heard that right. It sounds like something out of a drama, but it's more common than you might think. Unlike other family dynamics, this one rarely gets talked about because it's uncomfortable, even taboo. Yet when it happens, it can quietly disrupt even the strongest marriages. The signs are subtle at first. This relative might be overly friendly toward your spouse, offering to help with little things that don't seem out of the ordinary. They might compliment them a little too often or laugh just a bit too long at their jokes. You brush it off as harmless, until it starts happening more frequently. Take Kathy's story for example. Kathy had been married to John for 35 years. Their relationship was built on trust, mutual respect, and decades of shared experiences. But she began noticing strange behavior from her cousin Rachel. Rachel was always around. At family gatherings, she gravitated toward John, striking up long conversations and offering to help him with small tasks. Kathy dismissed it at first. After all, it's just family, right? But soon, things became more obvious. Rachel began texting John about non-family related matters, asking for his advice on everything from career decisions to her personal life. The compliments grew more specific. "You're always so understanding, John. Kathy's so lucky to have you." Kathy felt a growing discomfort in her gut but kept pushing the thoughts away, afraid she was imagining things. Was she being paranoid? Or was there something more to it? Finally, one day the truth hit her like a wave. During a family dinner, Rachel made a comment that sent chills down Kathy's spine. "If only I'd met someone like John first." That's when Kathy knew this wasn't just her imagination. Here's where things get really complicated. How do you handle something so delicate without causing a family rift? Do you confront the relative? Do you talk to your spouse? Or do you let it go, hoping it's just a passing phase? Kathy chose to trust her instincts and have a calm, honest conversation with John. To her relief, he was on the same page. He had noticed Rachel's behavior too and had already started creating distance. Together, they agreed to set clear boundaries. No more private conversations and no favors that could blur the lines of family and friendship. But not every situation ends that way. Sometimes these hidden feelings can escalate, creating real damage to a marriage if left unchecked. Some might say Kathy should have confronted Rachel directly, while others believe family harmony is too valuable to risk. But here's the real question. What would you do? Would you address it head-on, even if it meant creating a lifelong tension within the family? Or would you protect your relationship quietly, keeping things subtle to avoid unnecessary drama? There's no easy answer. Every family is different. But one thing is certain, your marriage is worth protecting. Your later years are meant for peace, joy, and companionship, not silent battles or unspoken tensions. And while it may feel uncomfortable, setting boundaries is always the right choice when it comes to preserving the life and love you've built. We've talked about 5 types of relatives who can disrupt your peace, but the ultimate takeaway is this: protecting your happiness isn't selfish, it's self-respect. In the final section, we'll reflect on how to create those boundaries with grace and live your best years with the people who truly uplift you. Let's explore the complexity of the relative secretly in love with your spouse a bit deeper, because it's not always as obvious as Kathy's experience. Sometimes the signs are so subtle that they slip by unnoticed for years. It's It's only when you look back that you realize how much control this relative tried to exert over your relationship. For instance, they might start with innocent gestures, insisting on being helpful around your home or offering advice about your relationship, cloaking their intentions as friendly concern. You trust them because they're family, but there's always an underlying tension that you can't quite explain. Take Barbara and her husband Tom, for example. Barbara's sister, Diane, had always been a little too interested in Tom's life. At first, it seemed harmless. She'd ask him about his job, his hobbies, even his favorite foods. But over time, Barbara noticed something strange. Diane always seemed to show up when Tom was around, even when she wasn't invited. It came to a head one evening during a family barbecue. Diane pulled Tom aside for a private chat, leaving Barbara standing alone, watching from a distance. Later, when Barbara asked what they had discussed, Tom mentioned that Diane had been seeking relationship advice. Barbara felt her heart drop. Why would her sister ask her husband for relationship advice instead of her? It seemed innocent enough on the surface, but Barbara's gut told her otherwise. The conversation wasn't just about advice, it was about building intimacy, a connection that didn't belong to Diane. Here's a question for you. Would you confront Diane right away, or would you wait to gather more proof? Some would say it's better to avoid confrontation unless you're 100% sure. Others would argue that your intuition is proof enough. The truth lies somewhere in between. Barbara chose to trust her instincts. She didn't confront Diane immediately, but instead had a serious conversation with Tom. She shared her concerns, not in an accusing way but with honesty and vulnerability. To her relief, Tom understood and agreed to set boundaries. Together, they decided to distance themselves from Diane. Barbara didn't need drama or accusations, she just needed to protect her marriage. But what if your spouse doesn't notice the signs, or worse, brushes them off as paranoia? This is where things get controversial. Some people in this situation have discovered that the feelings were mutual, that the relative and the spouse had developed an emotional connection. While not a full-blown affair, this kind of emotional bond can be just as dangerous. It's painful to imagine, but it's a reality that many couples face. The key is addressing it early before it spirals into something more destructive. So, how do you handle it if things escalate? First, remember that you're not alone. These situations are more common than people think, and they can happen in the most unexpected families. Second, always prioritize open communication with your spouse. The goal is not to create a rift but to build even more trust and clarity between you. In some cases, a direct conversation with the relative might be necessary. This can be difficult, especially if the family is close-knit, but it's crucial to set boundaries. You can approach it calmly and respectfully. I've noticed you've been spending a lot of time with my spouse, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. Let's make sure we keep things clear and respectful moving forward. Yes, it might create tension, but protecting your peace and your marriage is worth it. Some viewers might think, this is too dramatic. This would never happen in my family. But let me ask you, would you even recognize it if it did? Hidden feelings rarely announce themselves outright. They reveal themselves slowly, in small, almost imperceptible ways, until suddenly they're too big to ignore. The truth is, life is too short to live in emotional chaos. By recognizing the patterns of these 5 types of relatives, you can take back control of your peace and happiness. In the next section, we'll talk about how to set boundaries with grace and live your best years surrounded by people who uplift you. We've covered a lot today, 5 types of relatives who can quietly disrupt your peace and happiness. This isn't about cutting family out of your life or holding on to bitterness. It's about something far more important: protecting your emotional well-being and surrounding yourself with people who genuinely uplift you. As we grow older, peace becomes one of life's most valuable treasures. After all the hard work, the struggles, the moments of joy and lessons learned, you've earned the right to live the rest of your life on your own terms. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it's necessary. It's a powerful act of self-respect. You are simply choosing joy, contentment, and freedom over unnecessary stress. Think about it for a moment. Have you ever walked away from a family gathering feeling drained, questioning your decisions, or second-guessing your worth because of someone's constant criticism or passive-aggressive remarks? Have you ever caught yourself hesitating to share your happiness out of fear that it would trigger envy or judgment? You're not alone. Many of us face these challenges, and they can quietly erode our peace if we don't take action. But here's the truth: you are not obligated to carry the emotional weight of someone else's negativity or unresolved issues. Your happiness is worth protecting. That doesn't mean you need to cut ties or create dramatic confrontations. Sometimes, it's as simple as shifting your energy and choosing to focus on what truly matters. Create boundaries that reflect your values, your needs, and your peace. Love from a distance if that's what it takes. The people who genuinely care about you will always respect your boundaries. At this stage of life, it's about celebrating the journey you've lived and making space for the things that bring you joy. You've spent years giving to others. It's okay to prioritize yourself now. Surround yourself with relationships that nourish you, experiences that fill your heart, and moments that remind you how far you've come. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you experienced any of these types of relatives in your life? How did you handle it? Take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences might just inspire and help someone else. If this message resonated with you, give the video a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching. Here's to living your best years with peace, joy, and the freedom you deserve.